So for this problem, it's asking you for the vertex, horizontal intercepts, range, and vertical intercepts, right? So with the vertex, you always find it between your x plus 5 and then the outside number. This is your y and this is your x, right? So then when you find that it's x plus 5, you want to find what x plus 5 will equal when it equals 0. So x plus 5 will be x negative 5. And this is a positive 7. So your answer will be, for the vertex, negative 5, 7. That's where your vertex will be. Now for horizontal intercepts, it's the same as finding your x-intercepts, right? With this one, it's a little bit difficult. So we're going to work through it down here. So our x-intercepts are when our y is 0. Y has to be 0. So in this function, f of x is the same as saying y. Okay? So we have to make this part 0 since it's our y. So 0 equals negative 1/4 parentheses x plus 5 square plus 7, okay? So now we have to solve it out and we have to find our x. Our x is what we're looking for when we're looking for an x-intercept. So right now, the easiest thing that we can do is move the 7 because we want to get the x by itself. So let's move the 7 by subtracting it from both sides. Minus 7, minus 7. So 7 minus 7 is 0. 0 minus 7 is negative 7. So now we have negative 7 equals negative 1/4 parentheses x plus 5 square. Okay? So now the next thing, the easiest thing to do next is multiply this whole thing on both sides by negative 4, right? Because we want to get rid of this one. We want to get rid of the 4 and negative 1, right? So now negative 4 times negative 7 will be 28. And then negative 4 times negative 1/4. These 4's will cancel out and you'll just have, these negative 4's will cancel out. And you see the negative, it doesn't matter whether it's on top or at the bottom. It applies to everything. So we can cancel out the negative 4 when we multiply this negative 4 by this negative 4. And now we only have 1. And even with the 1, you can choose to write it or you don't have to write it. Either way, like it's just kind of there. You're supposed to know. So then now we have 1 times x plus 5 square. And the 1, like, you can keep it there, honestly, because if you think about it like this, 1 times this, 1 times x plus 5 square is still x plus 5 square. It doesn't change anything. Even if we try to divide it, it doesn't really change anything. So now we have x, now to simplify it, we can write 28 equals x plus 5 parentheses. Don't forget your parentheses. It's very important in this problem. Okay. So now we have 28 equals x plus 5 square. And in order to get the x by itself, we now have to do square root because we want to get rid of this square, okay? So we would square root it on both sides. So we're going to take the square root of 28 and the square root of x plus 5 square. So the 28 one is a little bit more difficult for 2 reasons, because 28 isn't a perfect square. So we have to break it down. We have to figure out what products make 28 where we can find a perfect square. So that would be 4 and 7, right? Because 4 is the perfect square, but 7 will still be under the square root. And when you pull out the 4, remember, you're taking the square root of 4. So square root of 4 times the square root of 7, right? the square root of 4 will be simplified to 2 plus or minus 2. And it's plus or minus because remember, positive 2, which is the plus 2, is 4, while negative 2 times negative 2 is also still 4. Okay? Yeah. So now plus or minus 2 square root of 7. Okay? So this is just showing plus or minus 2 times the square root of 7 equals the square root of x plus 5 squared. And you see this square here? It makes this quantity into a perfect square. So we've taken the square out and we will be left with x plus 5. Okay, we don't have to write parentheses anymore, because now this is when we can separate the x plus 5, because we want to get the x by itself. And now we subtract 5 from both sides. So 5 minus 5 is 0. And we will be left with plus or minus 2 square root 7 minus 5 equals x. And this is your x-intercept. But remind yourself that since it's a plus or minus, you have two x-intercepts. And we can write it like this too. We can write it as positive 2 square 7 minus 5 equals x, which is your first x-intercept. Or we can have it as negative 2 square root 7 minus 5 equals x, which is also another x-intercept within this equation. Okay, so that's how you do your horizontal slash x-intercepts. And you could further calculate these numbers out in your calculator to find the exact numbers. So now we're back to range. And the range itself, you can see it through your calculator, but I know sometimes you might not have the calculator. So I found the range through the vertex and this sign.